In this lesson, we'll cover the Revit Structure User Interface. So when you open a project inside of Revit, depending upon the version of Revit that you are using, your screen may look exactly like mine or may look a little different. For the most part, though, it should look very similar. Starting out on the left, we have a tab called Architecture. This tab is primarily used to create the architectural elements within the Revit model, such as your architectural walls, adding doors and windows to those walls, architectural columns, adding a roof, a ceiling, even an architectural floor. And there's other detail elements too as well that you can create, and internal elements such as stairs, ramps, or even windows or glass walls. Now the next tab over is the Structure tab. For this course, this is where we'll spend most of our time. Here we can create structural elements, columns, walls, floors, even beams. There's also a place for bracing, trusses, beam systems. You have an area for foundation, your different types of foundation. An area for reinforcement, whether that's by area, rebar, or fabric. You also have a place for placing components. We have a place for grouping elements. We have a place for creating openings within the structural model. And then you have some setup criteria on the very right for creating work planes or showing those work planes or setting up a datum. The next tab over is the Systems tab. This is primarily used for MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So the first part is your HVAC or mechanical area, your ductwork, your tubing, your ventilation. You also have a place for fabrication, for fabricating parts. Mechanical equipment, such as AC units, piping, your tubular pipe or piping components, piping fixtures, or plumbing fixtures. You also have a drop down for electrical. This can be your electrical wiring, your conduits, your cable trays, or even your electrical equipment. And like the other tab, you have the capability to insert model components. And then there's also the setup for work planes and the settings for each of those work planes. The next tab over is the Insert tab. This allows you to insert certain elements into the Revit project. One is you can load families. And a family could be different types of, let's say, a structural column or a structural wall. You also can link in CAD files, such as a 2D file, maybe a floor plan or an elevation. You can manage those links, and you also can import various different types of other files. The next tab is Annotate. This is basically all of the annotation, text if you will, or dimensions. So you have an area to create different types of dimensions within your 2D plans. You have a place for detailing within those plans, such as detailed components. So maybe you would like to show the actual grout within the actual structural wall, or insulation within the wall. You have the area to create text. Standalone text, you can check the spelling of your text. You also can add tags to the various elements within your model or project. You can create color fill or color regions based upon different systems and add symbols in as well. The next tab over is Analyze. This is for basically looking at the analytics of the entire Revit project. You can look at different cases, in combination of those cases, such as loads on certain systems or loads on the actual structural model. You can adjust those loads, look at the supports, look at consistency, or reset the values. You can break the model into zones or areas for further testing. And you can look at the output for reports, schedules, or other type of reporting means. You can run system checks too on your different systems for your electrical, your plumbing, and your mechanical. You also have color fill, and then you also have energy analysis calculations and reporting, where you can actually look at the health of your actual building when it comes to the energy consumption or lack of energy consumption within a given area or the entire building. Massing in Site is the next tab. This is primarily for conceptual design in the first part of the tab, where you may not know the exact layout of the building, but you start with a mass model. From there, you can slice it into floors, create walls, and a roof. You also can lay out your site, topography surfaces, landscape, driveways, parking lots, different other model site elements. You can create regions, you can create property lines, and look at your actual contours as well. The next tab over is Collaborate. This is if you're working in a collaborative environment with, let's say, an architect or a mechanical designer or an electrical designer, where you have one Revit model, but you all share information back and forth. This is where you can set up the work sets for sharing. You can look at what's being copied from user to user. What are those coordination settings? And then if there's any interference when you're actually sharing data. The next tab over is View. Here you can set and create all of the different types of views that you're looking at in your Revit model. So these can be plan views, 3D views, or other types of views. The next tab after that is Manage. This is where you can manage your project, project information. You can look at your actual materials for your project, and all the other additional settings that control the Revit model. The last tab is Modify. This is your basic editing tools for moving, copying, rotating, trimming, and extending various elements within the Revit project. Now, outside of the ribbon, a couple other areas for the model. One is the actual model area, where you draw your model. Over on the left, the property area. This shows the properties of whatever you select. If nothing is selected, it shows the property of the view. Below that is the project browser. It shows you a listing of views that are currently in the project, any sheets, legends, and schedules, and also families of other architectural, structural, or mechanical, electrical, or plumbing elements that are currently loaded within the project. To the right is a view cube. This allows you to rotate the model by clicking on an edge, a corner, or a surface, or using the circular ring, or the house to go back to the home view. Regarding views, on the very bottom are the settings for this given view. So the level of detail, shading, shadows, if you want to hide elements or unhide elements. At the very top is a quick launch bar, where you can actually open elements, save elements, undo, redo, look at text, or your default 3D view. All the way to the right is your Help menu for looking up help or connecting online to Autodesk 360. And the very last part is the very bottom of the Revit window, which is actually the status window that shows you information if you're in a collaborative mode, such as work group, or the different states for various parts of the Revit model.